Hello, and welcome to the Stream of Chaos. My name is Dave, and I will be your Keeper of Arcane Lore for this session of Call of Cthulhu. Today we are continuing our playthrough of the Two-Headed Serpent, as we have concluded our Oklahoma chapter and are heading into new adventures. You can get your own copy of this campaign from Chaosium.com, and you can find all of our collected VODs from the previous sessions, as well as other campaigns we've played, over on the Chaosium YouTube channel. And if you are watching there, we do stream live each week on Twitch Fridays at 3 p.m. Pacific. So hop over here and join our little madness live. I want to give a thank you to Roll20 and to Sirenscape for being tools which we use to improve our games. And now, without further ado, let's return to the hotbed of this scenario. So, where we left things off last time, things were a bit grim. You had safely, or you had, very responsibly handled things in Bingham, in Oklahoma. You'd gone to great pains to set things to rest and bring people back together, start to rebuild bridges and right wrongs. Things weren't perfect, but they were certainly on the up. And after you handed the operation back over to your Chaosium, company, you departed, but a little birdie whispered in your ear to return to take another look, and when you came back, you found the site of a massacre. Everyone dead, gathered back together in that burned church, and clearly framed to look some sort of cult gone wrong. We now immediately cut to some week later, back in New York. You've all had a bit of time to gather your thoughts, center yourselves again, sleep, rest, heal, throw yourself into a little bit of study, but once again, the call has gone back up, and Gonzalez has another job for you. Where we pick things up, you are gathered in Mr. Smith's apartments, where you have met 2 days early, maybe, prior to your scheduled meeting. It's kind of up to you when you want to go in, and all seated around a brunch table. You are going back over your notes, the secrets you have discovered, and begin to put a bit of a plan together. We'll go around the virtual table and get everyone to reintroduce your investigators, and especially following this most recent developments, I'd love to hear how these characters are presenting, if they're behaving differently, if the camera might pick something up that even the others at the table don't. Why am I offering? Art, it's your turn. Let's go.
Hi, I'm Art. I usually go first, so this is fine. Who would like to go first?
No. That's not how we do this.
I will go first.
You're goddamn right.
Thank you. Yeah, I will, because I am Art, and I am playing Lieutenant Aries Carter, who is in charge of everything, and therefore should absolutely go first, unless they're sending someone else in front to take care of, any errant knives, bullets, that kind of thing. Aries will be sitting, surprisingly for them, relatively amicably around a brunch table. I think this is the first time they've actually acquiesced to coming to brunch and being a part of this. They still have a relatively cool demeanor, but there is the tug of a smile as they're sitting around and talking to their companions. I'm rather fond of this little band of misfits. They are still dressed impeccably in their military style attire, although you note as they reach over to grab their coffee or something from the table, there's a bit of a tug, there's something maybe on their side or around the lower part of their body that's giving them just a bit of difficulty moving. They haven't quite fully recovered from everything, and they sort of it's almost like something's catching, a piece of clothing might be catching or something, and they sort of twinge a little but continue. Their eyes are currently completely normal.
That's good.
But you would their hair is still slicked back, but if you were paying very close attention, you would see the very tip of a ink right at the base of their skull, which would not, kind of look like a sort of point. I will find out maybe what that is if and when they decide to take that shirt off again, which they seem to occasionally do. So
it's a matter of time.
Looks. If you looked very closely, it would look kind of like something scaly wound around something else scaly in a little kind of end triangle.
Curious. Well, we'll see if it's a matter of minutes or hours before Aries next pops the top off, and we'll get a chance to find out what that
Aries
is.
just fully gets nude, like just sure.
First obstacle approached.
Once you pop, you can't stop.
Well, speaking of completely nude, Jackson.
It's true. It's the most Jackson thing.
We're all nude under our clothes, Dave. Hey, I'm Jackson, and I'm playing Dr. Samuel Taylor Thompson, a doctor and aviator and just general here to help, good vibes only kind of guy.
Yeah.
Whose vibes have taken a beating. I'll be honest. Vibes don't grow on trees. They need time to rest and recover sometimes. So that's what his vibes are doing. I think Dr. Sam is just, I don't know if distracted is the right word, but like he usually takes you 2 or 3 attempts to get his attention because he seems to be miles away at any given moment. Just kind of lost in a pool of thoughts. His vibes have been rend and split and scattered to the winds, and he seems to be spending all of his time trying to knit them back together again.
I love that. Major wound to vibes. Is there a bit of like stubble underneath the mustache? Like, does he look a little unkempt?
Yeah, why not? Yes, absolutely.
Hell yeah. How have you spent the intervening week, I guess? Is it basically like, I imagine you would have gone back home. Was it a bit of a, I guess just surviving? Were you resting?
I think at first he would have gone home and then realized that he probably wasn't doing so good on his own in an empty house in the farmland. Like I think he would have just like realized, I didn't eat yesterday. That's not good.
Yeah.
So perhaps he would have maybe made his way back into the city and stayed with one of his fellow investigators for some time.
I love that. Yeah, fantastic. All right, Jim and Hubert.
Absolutely. Yes, I'm Jim, and I am playing Hubert, the big man with a big heart. I'll put you up, Jackson, good Dr. Sam, if you want to be rooming for a while. I have a big house. You're welcome to take a place. I think that Hubert has not changed very dramatically outwardly. He always cultivates a very specific appearance, and I think that he's maintained it. But there are a couple of telltale signs. In this particular circumstance, he's probably gone to great lengths, as he always does, to get a brunch ready, a whole sampling of wonderful foods that he is bustling around very stressed to make sure that they're all presented very well. I think the biggest thing is that he's just completely thrown off stylistically. So he's coming in, I've collected, today a medley of spiced radishes and fermented cabbage and all this weird kind of not standard brunchy things. And that's probably the only way that it all comes through. And maybe he started doing a little bit of the Shapiro thing of mopping at his brow a bit. Just because he's a little nervous, a little sweaty.
Can't stop sweating. Fantastic. So if Dr. Sam is staying with you, what's the rooming arrangement? Did you have a guest room? A lot, because I know there's also your mother that lives in the apartment.
Absolutely. Well, I think I have multiple guest rooms. I have a master guest suite, which is technically my room because my mum gets the best room in the house. But yeah, I would have prepared a nice room for Sam, maybe with a little arrangement. It's got like a little gift on the top. How would Sam feel about having staff come in and make his bed for him and clean up?
He wouldn't want to impose on them by telling them how to do their job. So,
okay, all right.
That's fine. If that's what they do, then I wouldn't want to get in their way.
Perfect. And I think I also have this absolute menace of a hamster that has just completely torn the apartment apart. I was told I wouldn't be able to handle a pet, and I have not been able to handle a pet. It's pissed on everything. Yeah, it's a luxury penthouse, and this hamster has made it its fiefdom.
the amount of terror a hamster would have to.
Here's a fun fact.
Yeah.
Hamsters can run.
You can't visit without it at some point almost tripping over it or smelling it, or it's not a good time. Yeah, morsel
Have you
is.
had a hamster? Because those things are like, yeah, there's a reason you keep those in cages. Thinking about.
Hamsters
Yeah,
can
to be.
run 6 kilometers per night.
That's that's more than I run, so I'm impressed.
I thought for a second you were going to say like 6 kilometers per hour. So my brain just went, that's really slow movement. Like, that's not.
Oh, like
Wait, also-
they can sprint 6 kilometers an hour? No, they can run 6 kilometers in a night.
That's fantastic. Well, this one does that just in a circle.
Good for him. All right, fantastic. And finally, Alex.
Hello, I am Alex. I am playing Wilhelmina St. Clair, who unfortunately did not was not around so much in the final episode of Oklahoma. But I expect her companions will fill her in over breakfast, as she may have heard that some shit went down. Hightailed it back into the city earlier than the others, as there was a little bit of suspicion in the town, I believe, around her in particular, her activities specifically. So, sometimes it's better to just get out of Dodge.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Minnie's, after returning to the town, basically separated off from the others to make sure she didn't draw too much attention, waited by the train, would have headed out with everyone under the understanding that, things had been resolved here, everything was on the improve, and then maybe you went back to New York earlier and weren't one of the few that went back to review the town.
No, I had some research to do, so I went back and started having a look, I suppose, at the conflict between these two entities that we've now come in contact with in this place, and if there's anything, if we can do any leveraging and maneuvering there.
Yeah.
Although it does sound a little bit like we may have to leverage and maneuver from a rather unexpected party.
Mm-hmm.
I would have passed on the name that I was given during the visiony thing with it Sithagua? Sithagua. Thank you. So I would have passed that name on in addition to any other to Minnie specifically before she had it back. Just to be explicit that I didn't hold that information. I have almost certainly held how I got that information, but I would be like, out of everyone here, Minnie's not going to ask questions about, hey, I had some weird dream things.
Then you'll be like,
man.
yeah, that's a thing. That's a thing that happens to people.
Okay, fantastic. Well, in that case then, so we will return with the four of you gathered around Hubert's rather eclectic brunch setup. His mother is dozing in a sunbeam somewhere in one of the other rooms, only occasionally interrupted by a small 3-inch hamster that goes fully pelting through the room, leaps off furniture, scrambles up the curtains, and finds an expensive book to devour. This thing is a formidable opponent, and Hubert is completely outmatched.
Family. That's my family.
At some point, we do need a one-shot where we just play Huberto's minions protect the mother in Home Alone style.
It's Home Alone.
Hell yeah. So conversation slowly turns from, catch-ups and you're dancing around the issue towards the moment in hand. You have been summoned back to Chaosium. You'll be expected to talk to them a bit more. You had like a half debrief, I guess, when you asked for them to come back in and assist with cleanup, but there probably will be the expectation that you will deliver some more insight into exactly what happened, especially to Gonzalez, your handler, and also receive your new mission. Now, you've been asked to come in basically as soon as possible. Just so happened that Sam was already in the city staying with Hubert's, so they will expect you anytime in the next 3 days or so, but you are actually closer at hand and could attend as early as later today. I pass it to the four of you to, make plans and make mistakes. Very well.
Well, we wait until we've eaten a little bit to discuss business. We'll get out of the way, talk about our experience with the food, which I think is not so good. But once we're actually in,
I don't know. This kind of cabbage, pickled, spiced cabbage, very nice.
It's an acquired taste, I think, and I'm glad that we've all acquired.
I feel like you could put this in pancakes. It'd be quite nice.
Which
Sure.
brunch place did you get this from? Who is open serving pickled cabbage at 11 o'clock in the morning?
Well, they weren't.
In New York?
I had to make arrangements. I know a series of chefs, and I
But
pushed them to their
why?
limits.
But there's that lovely pastry place that's just across the road. But why?
Miss Sinclair, I think the reason may just be because.
There is. I mean, what we're looking into now is dangerous, and I want to make sure that I get all of the experimentation in my life out of the way. I think I've achieved a lot. I think I've lived.
Mr. Smith, you know full well you're not dying on my watch. You will have ample time to experiment.
Yes. I shouldn't take a fatalistic approach. On that note, what now? So,
Can we throw this in the bin and get a croissant?
okay, I'll make some notes. But yes, I just to start the conversation, I don't think we should have a clean sever with the organization. I think
Lord, no, we'd be dead by morning.
that's a good point. Yes,
There is only 4 of us.
So, with that in mind, we probably have to be ready to play their games to a certain extent. We should be ready to basically do whatever they tell us and to be doing our own investigations on the side. And we also should start to be pretty careful about what we tell Caduceus, because we could potentially feed them misinformation. Do we have any idea what their goal is at this point?
I would say that it's to gather what we're gathering, to use these entities for their own ends. I mean, we saw they had that mummified creature that we brought back strapped to a table and seemed to be testing the limits of its powers. I'm going to go down the most obvious path of weapons.
I mean, I don't know. There's a chance they haven't actually lied to us. There's a chance that, everything they've said is true, and that's what they want to do. But we just didn't know how far they'd go.
Previously, we've tried to analyze a little bit the factions that we can see at play, and we've spoken about how we can identify 2 groups, really, of serpents. And now that we're getting a bit more information, we're starting to see that maybe they're worshippers of different entities. Then we have the mummy, who, correct me if I'm wrong, made a couple of loud noises about not wanting to serve either side. And then now we have Caduceus in play, whose goal is, as a human organization, to try and unlock as much of the power of the serpents as possible.
I'm going to be honest, out of the 4 you've just raised, I would put Caduceus as the most snake-like among them.
Certainly the most threatening to us, just in terms of proximity.
Yes. So, I mean, Sam, you talked to Caduceus previously, and we've floated the idea of trying to make some kind of contact with one of the Serpent factions. Is that something we want to pursue?
I mean, it seems like they're not going to.
Well,
They're just gonna exterminate any of the serpent things they can find. So, I mean, if anything, that's an advantage that we can take that they won't.
that's true.
I'm not sure that. I'm going to be very explicit right now, and that's going to be hard to hear. All right? I think Caduceus went in and massacred Bingham, not because those people were snakes, but because those people knew about snakes and could pass that on. I think Caduceus is gathering information about the various factions, as Miss Sinclair suggested, quite possibly for some kind of weaponry. They are, after all, an organization that prides themselves on fighting back the dark, as it were. The easiest way to make sure that you have an advantage is that the other side doesn't know what you have. The only way that they can ensure that no one knows what they have is to take anyone who's ever seen anything out of the ordinary and cut them down like animals.
Yeah.
Well,
So, if we don't want to go the same way, I suggest we play nice with our lords and masters for the time being. But I certainly do not intend that they remain lords and masters over anyone for any length of time.
it seems like our objective. So our objective is going to be: we go into Caduceus, we say what's next, and then the next time we're sent on a mission, we widen the scope a little bit and try and sort of work like that. The one
I
question
agree. Yeah. Your question? No, I was just agreeing with you.
We're
We're all a little frazzled.
In that case, the one question is what's the end game for Caduceus? What's our goal there?
To make sure that they can't go in and massacre a whole town again. How we do that, I don't know what that looks like. I hope we figure that out soon. I mean, in detail, broad strokes, sure, but what we actually do, I don't know. But the goal, make sure they don't do that again.
We'll have to see how deep it goes, because as far as we know, it's just leadership, maybe, or is it all the way through? I mean, this is an aid organization. They have a lot of people there. And it's not like we're going to let off a Haftarang device in the middle of New York and wipe everybody at the building out or something like that. You know, that would be the same thing that they did down in Bingham.
There is a very slight yellowing of one of Aries' eyes when you start suggesting blowing up the entire of New York with a half-Tarang device, which then goes back to normal very quickly. Just an ever slight like change of coloration before it comes back.
Very cool.
I joined Caduceus before all of you. Protect people. I spent a lot of time following orders from unpleasant people, putting despots on thrones they didn't deserve, and supporting an empire that should have fallen many, many centuries ago. I'm not in the habit of making myself available to the whims of people who want to harm innocents. So as far as I'm concerned, the end goal for Caduceus is that they die. They are wiped from this planet. So
The ones who were involved again. Just the ones who were involved, because they are. It does seem to be that there is legitimate aid organization stuff happening.
If we can be certain, certainly. But as far as I'm concerned, it's rotten all the way down.
Oh.
Until we know otherwise.
Oh.
Maybe there is benefit from, pardon the pun, cutting the head off the serpent. But I'm not convinced the tail doesn't have a sting in it as well. So for the time being, my suggestion, and it is just a suggestion, is that we bide our time. We
Yes.
wait until we're ready. And when they get close enough, we strike. And we make sure that when we do so, they are in no position to recover.
Joey Bananas.
I'm sorry?
The factions. We were talking about factions and all the things at play. Joey Bananas. No, not Joey Bananas. Banana, the mob.
Well, yeah, we should discuss what happened last time we were in New York, eh?
Oh, yes, that poor unfortunate fellow with his skin stripped off.
I spent a lot of time in the hospital recovering from the last grievous injury. Get me up to date again?
The mob. We're being watched by the mob.
Sam found the body with the
Sam
ring.
found a body with no skin.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Well.
Which, strangely enough, now that I think about it, we assumed that was
A snake person thing.
The Serpent who did that. But if Caduceus has progressed with their research as far as we think they might have, then I am now not convinced, although I don't think it is deeply likely, but I'm not convinced that they might not have tried the same thing as a
Insurance.
safe insurance. Thank you, Miss Sinclair. Yes.
Particularly if the mob has sort of stumbled across. I mean, Caduceus, a large organization. I mean, for all we know, what could have happened is maybe they had a warehouse somewhere. Maybe it's this mysterious Kentucky location where Connecticut. I'm sorry. The other.
Sorry, voice in the sky.
It was the hamster. That's the only word I noticed.
Oh God, it's literally God.
Connecticut.
Maybe they heard about the Connecticut location. Maybe they robbed a warehouse. Maybe they found some things they shouldn't have, and Caduceus has been trying to shut them up. That's a good lead, and we have a couple of things like that. We have 2 days until we need to go back to see Caduceus. I think that we should all pick up on one of the threads we have, whether it's Mr. Bananas, whether it's going and trying to track down this more about this Connecticut location, whether it's simply hitting the books, you're trying to find more out about the any of the individual Serpent people factions, or maybe trying to just find another way to get in contact with them.
I mean, do keep in mind, we still don't know who the Peace Brothers were working for. That is another potential faction involved in all of this. Whoever they were working for. Oh, actually, did we get the suggestion that they were working for the drunk man?
He was certainly with them.
Yeah, I mean, it might have been. We maybe don't know why they initially came to Bingham, but they were definitely working for that guy when they attacked us.
They're working with that man.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced they're working for him. They let's just put it this way. I'm pretty good at not getting shot. So people with that level of training tend to be expensive.
Mm.
For the simple reason that I am very expensive. So I'm not sure that a drunk from a tiny town is likely to have the kinds of funds to hire that level of muscle, that level of skill. So I would like to know either who they're working for or who bankrolled that gentleman. Unfortunately, we don't have a chance to ask him now, but he is proverbially 6 feet under.
Well, okay. Well, we've got a couple of threads, and that's one. I don't think that currently, at least until we have a bit more information, we want to tear off to Connecticut, which is probably the thread that I feel the most personally prepared myself to look into. I would propose that I spend my time trying to ingratiate us further with Caduceus. I will just start playing nice with them. I might start talking about considering I to have a high-risk job, setting up a charitable foundation for my death or something that will fund them a lot. I mean, it seems like they're mostly funded through philanthropists, which means that this is probably something that they're going to court me over.
Full well, if you do that, Mr. Smith, you're putting a very large target on your back.
I can just start the discussions for now. We'll see.
No, I understand. What I'm suggesting is that is an interesting proposition if what you're suggesting is that we give them something that makes them think that we truly are not playing against them. I mean, if you turn around and say, if I die, you get all my money, then it'd be very stupid of you to go against them because they kill you and they get all your money.
Yeah,
so I think
yes. So
that is what
I might
happy
start
to do.
that process and giving the three of you space to start pulling at the threads that are a little more dangerous.
Miss Sinclair, how are you situated? Did you find anything? I know you went back to New York early. We're doing some research. Did you find anything interesting?
Did I find anything interesting, Kiefer?
What might you have been looking into?
I would have been looking into, I guess, the two separate entities that we now know the name of, or we know the name of at least one.
Yig, the father of serpents, and Sathagwa.
Yig and Sathagwa. And looking into any kind of, I guess, records of conflict between the two is specifically probably where I'd be at. Because now we had at that point we weren't, because that was pre finding out about Caduceus.
So you could make a Cthulhu Mythos roll for me, please.
No.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So
I haven't gone mad.
No, you have not.
Well, I mean, I have, but
you are
But we
very-
haven't gotten any additional Cthulhu mythos for everything that we've done. I know. I think I was the last person who got
you
some
have.
shit.
You have.
That is.
I think also we've actually
Mo-
had no one. I think a few people still haven't triggered their first bout for seeing a creature, which gives you
Well-
some as well.
Oh, did we get any sanity rewards from the last chapter?
I was
Oh, yeah,
gonna
we should
ask,
do.
but
it could be
So
useful.
you are very much aware of the animosity between Sithagwa and the Father of Serpents. This goes back to basically a number of the Serpent people abandoning Serpent persons, abandoning Yig and trading over to worship Sithagwa. Now, you don't glean any additional insight, not through your own study, but Caduceus has historically had more information on hand. If you can get some access to their libraries or files, you might have the chance to look into this further. So you know where you could pursue this and continue researching, but from your own information, nothing there, unfortunately.
so the potential might there is a reason for perhaps Miss Sinclair to go back to Caduceus to access their notes prior to us going back officially. Did you spend any time at the Caduceus location while we were away, or have you been primarily focusing?
No, I've honestly been avoiding them just a little bit. This isn't. I mean, the mask was terrible, but we were a little bit sus on them before that. So, no, I didn't go in.
It's been about,
Well, I certainly
about
don't want.
week and a half total. And honestly, all of you spent most of the last week recovering. This is bringing you back up to speed and sort of, not dying in deserts, which has been really great.
Yeah,
I got
mean,
shot twice, damn it.
I was a little bit crispy.
I got shot and stabbed. It was a grand old time. I don't know how sensible it is to have multiple of us go to Caduceus. If we're being asked to officially report, we definitely want to ensure that if we do if anyone gets there early, they don't assume we're all coming in. It can be for something else. So whoever goes in, we'll need a decent excuse as to why the others aren't there. The more of us, the harder that may be. But Miss Sinclair, it might be worthwhile you attempting to get access to their records if you want to find anything in your own notes.
I'm very invested now in discovering how much they know and what they might be using it for.
I want to ensure we have as much information as possible before we do anything. If there's one thing that perhaps snakes have the right idea of, it's they're very patient. I think that might be worth us keeping in mind as we go forward.
Maybe that's all we can do.
Sam, you haven't spoken up much. How are you feeling about this potential path forwards? Do you have any other suggestions?
No, just a bit in the mind, but no, look, I mean, we're here to help people, and we've learnt that Caduceus isn't always going to help people. It's a good lesson, and it's one that's going to change how we move forward.
I suspect that they might think they're helping people. It's just that their version of helping is the greatest good for the greatest number, irrespective of do no harm.
Yeah, I feel like after the massacre, I don't know if I feel like there was a level of delusion that goes well beyond. They that kind of thing. I'm not sure helping people is the main goal.
I suspect if you ask them, they would say it was. Most people who find it in their hearts to consider large-scale murder necessary tend to find ways to justify it to themselves. As someone who has had to do so, you find ways to make it make sense, even if you realize later that those perhaps weren't the best of reasons. Everyone needs a reason to get through the day.
I'm just not sure it's helping people. I mean, if
agree.
they didn't simply shoot us in the face if we asked, I would guess it's just a general disregard for human life. But I'm sure we'll find out eventually, one way or the other.
Well, regardless, we need to make sure that they do not know that we returned to Bingham. As far as they are aware, we went to Oklahoma. We spent a few days there getting the the young one settled in to the local law enforcement, spent some time there recovering, came back here, continued the recovery process. I will leave it to you two fine folks, should you choose to return before we do, to, how do they say that? Lie through your teeth, if necessary. I have the greatest faith in that.
I've developed a series of excuses and cover stories. I'll set us in place. They won't see through. They won't see through me.
I hope they're a little more tactically advanced than your reverse pincer, Mr. Smith.
Point taken. Point taken. Although, I would argue that we were taken in by the reverse pincer, at least at some point. Anyway, yes. Yes. I'll be ready. I'll cover us and we can get researching.
Okay.
Just to be clear, Mr. Smith, I have utmost faith in your ability. I was, in fact, tempting, I think, to make a joke.
And skillfully executed it was.
Looks
Don't
good on you.
patronize me.
Suits him.
Please don't patronize me. I know what I'm doing. Sam, if you don't mind, I'd like to have a talk to you when you have a moment.
Yeah, of course.
A little twinge from the injuries. I just want to have you to take a look at them, if you don't mind.
Definitely. Will do. Roger that.
Do you want anything from my flask?
You know, it is 5 p.m. somewhere, sure.
And I've made small
Makes the twinges go away.
boxes of takeaway breakfast for those who didn't finish theirs.
No, thank you.
Mr. Smith, do you have an area just private so
Yes,
that I can,
yes.
if
Not
Sam
from
is
more-
available now, if not later.
Yes.
Please.
Okay. Hubert and Minnie go to assess some of the most recent damage done by the hamster to the books. And Carter and Sam, you can steal a quiet moment.
I'm going to start teaching Hubert how to lie properly.
Right.
How are you, Sam?
Not good. But we'll get better. I mean, we have to. Don't we?
We've been here before.
Yeah.
I know you don't like to talk about it, neither do I. It's not the first time.
I mean, I don't know if we have been here before, though, have we? Maybe it's.
No,
I've been in a place where people get sick and they get worse and then they slip away. And I've been in a place where they've walking around and having the time of their lives and then bang and they're gone. I don't know if I've been in a place where we made people better and then they got snuffed out anyway. That's new. I guess that's what I'm dealing with. It's a bit new.
No, you're right. It is different. I don't know what we're going to do. I feel like I genuinely thought that maybe for once I could actually use some of my skills to help instead of, well, I'm always going to hurt people, but sometimes I can at least hurt the right people. Ideally, things that aren't people. But
I mean, we did help.
We did. Well, I don't have anything to say. I'm not good at this. You're the one who looks after people, but I think it's all right if we're not all right now.
All right.
Talking of not all right, and I'm going to take off overshirt, roll up, singlet, and be like, this is new. And I'm going to point to the scales that are currently covering where the knife wound and the bullet wound went. Lovely kind of silvery, whitish, black.
Totally normal, don't we?
That have grown in to cover where scar tissue really should be and absolutely shouldn't have grown that quickly in a week.
That is new.
Yes.
Well, you've come to the right doctor, hey.
Yes. I suppose this is my...
This is after the cave, hey?
Yes. It spoke to me. And we made a deal.
Oh no. What was your end of the deal?
Kill the inner knight.
Oh. Might have been going to do that anyway. Hey,
Yes, that was kind of why I offered it, and
it's not a bad deal.
I wasn't actually expecting it to work, but is it Yig the Father of Serpents?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yig
This is
the
that Yig
Father-
fella.
Yes, Yig the Father of Serpents, as I understand it to be now, seemed to not require anything further. In fact, if I remember correctly, essentially the terms were that if I were to assist with this, nothing further would be required, at least as far as this is. I believe the exact wording
I
was
would not
you
be
may
that
take...
confident.
I need to go back and watch the VOD because I did
Yeah.
want to check the wording, but it was essentially like, I give you this freely, or like there is...
Basically, it's you will get the power, but these things do not necessarily deal in terms. This is a turn.
I was given the power without having to be like, yes, I will serve you. Like it was I didn't need to actually go through the like, I will become one, I will put an egg in my stomach.
The
the
door
biggest
has been
classification-
opened.
The biggest classification might be that I give you this. We still don't really know what this is.
No, we don't.
There is also just a level of there is no written contract here. There is no law to study. You in the
I wasn't
intervening
expecting to go
period,
scales, to be clear. That seems weird.
you in the intervening period have found these develops. You have felt you can almost feel like subconscious changes. There is something beginning to change about you, and you might not notice it until you're within the company of friends again and finding yourself a little changed. It's, so slow
there
it
is
might sneak up on you.
there is absolutely as I said, a coolness to Aries' demeanor that I think has always been like, Aries has always been like controlled, but this is a little extra. You would read it as aloof if you didn't know any better.
Do you want
As
to
far as-
just study this, Jackson? Do you want to give us a medicine
Oh,
roll to have a
yeah.
little bit of a prod around?
Definitely. I thought you'd never ask because I'm already like, in. This is kind of my thesis topic
So
at this
I think,
point.
sort of like, Hubert, I imagine you have like those large bathrooms, almost like you'd find in a hotel or something, with like several sinks and large mirrors. So the two of you are like a marbled area with Aries' shirt rolled up far enough, and Dr. Sam's got his like breakout bag there, and with a scalpel is very delicately tugging at some of the scales and looking at them more closely.
I think just to add to the scene, there's like little siren or mermaid little statues around the bath or something like that, which are, scaled creatures,
Hell
just
yes.
to add some atmosphere.
So,
Meanwhile, not a fumble,
no.
as we're so fond of saying.
You have a look over it, and you need to study this more closely. This, Dr. Sam, this would be... red flags would probably be going off. You've seen similar things to this, and it's in the people that have had the blessing that were touched by the Reverend, and all of them came at some cost. There was no free boons, basically. Anyone that was healed, Peggy, who was, basically shedding her skin regularly. Pearl, sorry. This appears to be... It is not just a thin veneer. The scale that you pull off does not reveal like normal skin underneath it. It feels actually... It's as if something is growing over, and where it calluses, it is taking portions of Carter. That said, it is Carter as well. Giving it a prod, you still react to it. Like, it hurts, you can feel it.
Yeah. I'm getting the impression that 26 points of luck won't get me anything. Regular success.
Oh, no. You'd get a bit more information, but
I think
you need to
now's the
study
time
this.
to spend it.
Okay. All right.
I think now's the time. We're between life-threatening situations.
Yes.
You get
Hubris. Let's go.
luck.
Okay.
You get so much luck every session in Pulp. I think now's the time.
Carter, do you acquiesce to focused
Thanks.
study? Because this is going to
Closer
involve
examination.
Sam basically looking at this and then following this up with like, some, basic, like, are you feeling well? Is
Are you asking me if I would trust Sam
Mm-hmm.
with my health and well-being?
Mm-hmm.
What a stupid question.
All right.
Yes.
Do you want to open up Aries' character sheet and tell me who you see under special person?
Yeah, it says
Whatever
Yig,
it's called.
the father of
Significant
serpents.
person?
Oh no!
What? I'm betrayed.
Yes. Mechanically, for those who obviously can't see our character sheets, Dr. Sam is Aries' significant person. If you played Call of Cthulhu and know what that is. So
Okay.
yes, we are very, very firm friends, or at least important to one another because of what we
It's
do.
true.
Okay, well then with that in mind, you will notice a few more things. First of all, the scales are basically replacing elements of skin where there would normally be scar tissuing developing. It is being replaced with a sort of, muted silvery scale. There are 2 points of this on Aries' body. There is also a smaller one just sort of like on the forearm where there was just like a minor cut or scrape. Not even enough to deal
right.
like mechanical damage, but basically any small nicks and tears are reforming in this new shape.
So
Rather
like
than
even things that wouldn't normally be scar tissue.
just anything basically where it gets an opportunity, it is taking
Right.
it is setting the seed. Additionally, as you sort of like shine a light up, you will see that behind, like on Aries' eyes, like almost like looking back where you'd see like the reflection of it, there is a like slit behind it, almost hidden behind the iris, which was certainly not present before, and Aries is able to basically stare straight into that light, unblinking and unfazed. You will also notice, and Carter, you might be aware of this as it's happening, that the food you have consumed here, pickled cabbages and things, is not really ticking the boxes. In fact, it's almost feeling... You're not feeling completely unwell. There's no urge to immediately, vomit this back up, but it's too vegetable focused. It's too vinegary. It's watery, and it's not sating you by any means. Sam, you can kind of see your friend and ally changing.
Yep. Well, yep. So there's a bit going on here.
That's it. Sorry. They heal much. They do appear to be healing much more faster than normal, and you'd probably have the means to test this. They are effectively immune to poison.
Wow.
Would also, just out of interest, is my body temperature lowered?
Yeah, maybe not enough to register. Probably, but when you're like sitting completely still, yeah, it probably would have reduced. If Sam
Just
has
because
like comprehensive notes of it, it might have dropped like an average of, it probably not enough to register yet. No.
Okay.
But
I'm just curious about the like wandering through the desert and not feeling the effects of the heat, whether there was sort of just like a consistent, like a slight cooling. But that makes sense if it's not immediately obvious.
This also seems like something that may continue to develop.
Good. I would tell Aries all of this in the same way that a doctor may not, if they were, still in the midst of treating you and figuring out diagnosis. Doctors like to not get people to worry and keep the cards close to the chest until they're certain, but that's not what I'm doing here. Laying it all on the table. Just for Aries, my bud.
That's good to know. Do you have a sense of whether or not this is going to progress without me getting injured, or is it predominantly injuries that are doing the trick currently?
It's just injuries so far, but as we saw, things can change over time. It might speed up, might slow down. Probably won't slow down.
No, I doubt it. I feel like this ought to bother me. I'm not sure it does.
Honestly, if this is a better thing, it's not bothering me. It seems like it's a good thing so far. It came from that creepy cave that was doing terrible things to that town, but I mean, you didn't kill them all.
No,
That's all I can think of.
I'm not sure that. I'm not sure that thing was doing anything worse than what Caduceus just did. So,
No.
at least for the time being, while Caduceus is still a problem. I mean, I'm not sure how to. No, like sort of lift my arms up. I'm not sure how to get rid of this, even if I tried. But I can't say that I care much about making that a focus, at least until we're sure that Caduceus is under control.
Yeah.
I feel. I don't know how to describe this except by saying I feel more lethal than perhaps I did before. Which is a terrifying prospect because I'm already relatively lethal.
Oh, you don't need to tell me.
Well, how about this then, Sam? Because I think it's important. It's important that neither of us lose our heads. Keep an eye on me. I'll keep checking in with you. We'll track this together. Perhaps you can look into the medical aspects of this being and what it offers. You were already interested in having a look at a lot of their things, and
Oh, yeah.
I'll let you know anything I find out about what's happening, and maybe we'll work out together whether this is, I don't exactly want to say a blessing in disguise, but something that isn't quite so bad as perhaps it appears from the outset. I would ask that at least for the moment, we don't trouble the others with this. I have no intention of keeping it from them long term, but just until we find out what's going on with Caduceus, I don't want to stress them. I don't want to make them concerned about my ability to.
I had
do
the
my
same
job.
thoughts. Yep, we're on the same page there.
Well, I'm gonna turn around and put my shirt back on and button it up. And as I turn around, you would see that the triangle. Sam, you'd see this. The triangle is the tails of two snakes tattoos that wind around each other and form a little loop at the bottom that run from the nape of the neck down to sort of like the mid spine. That looks relatively fresh. Although if I'm healing quickly,
And scalally.
well, in that case, I like the fact that I was like, you can see scaled things. Yeah, there's you're like, oh, that's
Actual
really good shading. No, actually, that might just be scales.
That's sick.
Very, very small. They've grown into where the scales have been shaded in on the tattoo. One is for the purposes of just, I looked at the cover art on the book and I want to do this now. One of them is darker than the other one. The other one is more of an outline. The other one is shaded in more. So you get the contrast of the two serpents that are running down Aries' spine. Thank you, Sam, and we'll find a way through this. We did before, we'll do it again. And if it means taking down that tower piece by piece until everyone in it can't hurt anyone anymore, then we'll do it, and we'll do it together.
Good.
Thank you.
Wouldn't want to do it any other way.
All right. You head back.
One last thing. Sorry. Apologies.
You're gonna Columbo this scene? All right.
Yeah, because I forgot an important
Couldn't help
thing.
but notice.
just as I walk out, and then walk to a door, then go and turn around and be like, Sam, what do you know about poisons? And that can be where we leave that if you like.
Okay. You come out just as Morsel the hamster bites Hubert on the thumb and latches in, teeth meet in the center.
Are
It
you
will not be
even
shaken loose.
listening to me, Hubert?
I am. I'm not skilled at all this deception and stuff. I wish I could just say, hey, what's going on? But I'll try it. Use the. How did you get so good at lying?
I'm a woman in academia.
Fair enough.
I pretended to be about 6 different men, 2 professors, anything to get into the library when I'm really just not allowed there.
Oh, well, I guess that considering the amount that you read, that must have got you pretty good at it. Okay, well,
Right.
I think I think we'll be okay. And then speaking of which, Dave, can Minnie possibly make a fast talk check to maybe give me a bonus die on my upcoming fast talk check?
Yeah, 100%. Minnie, what's the advice you give him? What's his secret?
Oh, my advice for Hubert is to say as little as possible. Just the shortest possible answers. There's no long explanations. You'll trip yourself up. And the closer it is to the truth, the easier it goes down.
Yeah. When you fast talk slow.
If I fumble, Hubert is immediately going to blurt out that he is a woman in academia. When pressed.
That's hilarious. All right, yeah. We'll give you a bonus dice for that. I think Minnie's kind of got you a couple of core seeds, some real hard truths.
Hell yeah.
To pull on. Okay, so it's getting into sort of, this brunch has extended into lunch and is threatening afternoon tea. It's encroaching on its territory, and Hubert won't stand for that sort of thing. So what is the split? What does everyone want to get up to for the next couple of days, and when do you want to reconvene, I guess, next at Chaosium's headquarters?
As much as Minnie does need to do the Chaosium's headquarters notes library thing, I feel like once we go into Chaosium, we may not be like that. May be a fairly cataclysmic choice to make. I would actually like to start looking into the mob a little more.
Okay, all right.
That would be number one thing because I've got names.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to take a look.
I want to know what their part in this is. Whether they're a Chaosium aligned and are basically acting as their muscle. Whether they're looking to, lift some of Chaosium's valuable stuff if they've had a negative run-in and could potentially be allies. Like, just where are they at in this?
I love that. Okay, noted. I'll have everyone roll their. I'll just get senses first. So Minnie is going to focus on the mob and try and find any ties to Chaosium. Whomst next?
I intend to make, if you will allow it, a credit rating check and to start slowly ingratiating myself deeper into the good graces of Caduceus.
You are our man on the inside.
Just really putting myself up as, I'm on board. I really like what's happening. And when we were down in that basement and we saw all those crazy things,
that was cool.
I understand you can't tell me everything. And exactly how much is it going to cost for me to find out all about it?
You're kind of, like Aries pointed out, you might be painting a bit of a target in yourself, but you're kind of willingly upping the you're allowing yourself to be drawn in. You're allowing them to think that they are fooling you and that they've got a real true believer. Do you want to open this up? Do you want to seed anything that might suggest you would be interested in more extreme measures so that you might be taken into, because clearly there's conversations being had about, what happened at, that was coordinated, what happened at Bingham. Someone had to have done that. Are you opening yourself up to that sort of thing so that maybe organically you'll be brought into deeper folds? Or do you just want to kind of resecure your current shores and let that continue?
No, I want deeper. Let me in. Get me. I want to imply that, like, I want to, who is
at
it?
Any cost.
Is it Meagam? Is the name of the
Meadham is Joshua Meadham leads it.
This foundation was built on very, very wealthy people taking a strong interest in the Serpent people. I want to be the next one. Take me on as partner.
Okay, so you're doing a bit of we'll go to whatever extremes are necessary. We oppose these things, and it is the greater evil, so on and so forth. Okay, fantastic. Yeah, I love it. All right, so that's gonna be Hubert. What about Dr. Sam or Lieutenant Carter?
Sounds like I'm going to spend some more time thinking about snake medicine and poison.
He loves thinking about snake medicine. Okay.
Yeah.
What might be the goal coming out of this? Is it specifically finding a way to maybe reverse?
Heck no. Sorry. No, it's all right. I don't think that's the path we're going down. I think this is. I think Aries and Sam, forgive me for speaking for you, but it sounds like we're both kind of a little bit interested in this and what it can do.
Yeah, I think if anything, the vibe that Aries would give off is I don't mind what's happening as long as I still retain the ability to think for myself, and as long as that continues, and as long as I feel in control of my own faculties, I don't really mind what happens to the like my form. Again, also so long as it's passable and it doesn't then make me like an obvious target. This feels currently like a boon, an advantage, and I would like to keep it that way. So as far as like, if Sam did go, do you want to reverse it? I would say, no, I want to control it. I want that to be a thing that is there. And I feel that is also Sam's vibe of the medicine kind of thing, is like, not necessarily to like permanently reverse anything, but find ways of making it work for us in the way we want it to, rather than making it work in ways that we don't want it to.
Okay.
I think so.
100%, that rules. Well, with that in mind, this will be a roll on it. But Sam, given your previous success, you could try and accelerate this process slightly and weaponize it to a level and get to some more powerful boons. It is up to you. It would require the both of you working together. So out of Aries, this would kind of be what you're doing as well. And there'd be a roll
I was going
involved.
to say, my plan was nothing more than I will make myself available to Sam for like testing purposes, because now we actually have like a live person who is being given something and is not like, they haven't been injected by some weird substance or like gone, with the exception of the Reverend, gone into it assuming that it's some kind of miracle. I know kind of exactly what I've done, and we know it's directly related to the serpents. But the other thing that I was planning on doing is just a lot of training. To get a feel for if there is any, because the scales are a little like new, and just relearning how to move with that different texture, that different like, I'm assuming the skin might be a little thicker as well, so just like getting a feel for movement, so that I'm not distracted by the pulling or the sensation of having like moving a little bit differently. And also if Sam is willing to have a look at what kind of substances we can use to potentially give ourselves an edge when we do have to get blades or guns out. I will also be practicing specifically with that in mind, as a like, how do I make sure I use this in a way that doesn't hurt me or the people around me? It's just, I'm training. So yeah, I will essentially be available to Sam as a presence while he works, because I want the outcomes of his research. Okay. And otherwise, it's just montage of Aries punching and stabbing and kicking and just, just standard, like, evil Captain America. Montage sequence. Go forth.
Very relevant. So what I'm going to get is Minnie, if you could please give me a library use roll. Hubert, if you could please give me a credit rating roll. And Dr. Sam, can you please give me a medicine roll with a bonus dice for Aries' assistance and presence.
Captain America.
All of these are going to scale.
I'm
no,
bucking this.
Okay.
The number of times you said not a fumble is a good time. Ooh, that is good.
All right, where are we at? So I see a few successes, and I think one hard success from Sam.
I can luck mine to a hard pretty easy.
I'm lucking mine to a regular success.
So I guess let's begin with Hubert yourself. I think, basically, get yourself a little bit deeper down the rabbit hole. You are beginning to, suggest that, your vast wealth will be left over to the facility, and maybe there's an opening for, funds to be transferred, but you're keeping this as, a conversation so that they can't just, yoink you and kill you for your funds. Just with the success, one thing you will realize is they are very well off. Meadham is immensely wealthy, and he has managed to parlay this into, yet more wealth over a period. They also do have other benefactors, many legitimate, as they do invest in the aid organization. And then there is tomfoolery afoot. It'd actually probably be an accounting role to really try and trace that down and see exactly where things are going. If you wanted to, really setting yourself up for like, hey, I love extreme and cooked shit you'd probably need that hard roll to get there. And I will say under extreme there is yet more information. So if you want to push this or go all the way down the rabbit hole, there are options there.
Okay, I'll tell you what. I will. First of all, I'm going to quickly roll the luck that I hadn't rolled.
Oh yeah, good call.
Okay, fantastic. That is going to add 13 for me.
That.
Yeah, I'll take it. I will at least. I'm gonna lock it down to a hard is my default. What I'm debating is whether or not I want to push it, because I probably shouldn't push it. But I do love the idea of just dropping. Maybe is too far. Dropping the. I've maybe figured out what happened in Bingham, and I'm not opposed. Was my idea, just sort of like, but I think it's too much. I will lock it down to a hard, and I will leave things there.
I will say if you go that route, I will say that, I mean, if you push it, under the hard is the success threshold. So you would still get under a hard is, you are safe enough that you're not going to suffer any major repercussions. That information will be out there, but you still need the extreme for that real extra boon.
I think it's one step too far.
Okay.
I'm just gonna give it 8 points of luck, and we'll leave it at that.
No worries. All right, then with a hard success, you begin to see that you would be interested in more extreme measures. You will probably be trusted to a greater level, and we'll parlay this into a bonus dice, basically, if the circumstances come up. Right. Additionally, you have voiced this within Chaosium and basically maybe a flag for, accelerated steps into the next level. You've also kind of just secured you and your allies' foundation as loyal soldiers and followers of the organization. So, nicely done.
Okay, fantastic. And I do have this accounting role that I could potentially. Hubert might have to learn about money. He's been so rich, he's never had to do that.
You could also, I mean, you could do, if you have like an accountant on staff or something, you could try and run this through them. Now, this is showing them books for another, like this would be for sure illegal. Yeah. And you'd have to find someone who's willing to do it. But you're a wealthy man. You're a very wealthy man.
You know what? Here's what I'll do. I will leave things at, because I know you can't do everything. I send a message to, if you would permit it, Dave, to the detective, the secret detective. I would say with a large tip and expressing that I would like to hire your services again. Can we meet the next time I'm in New York? I'm sure you'll be able to figure out when that is.
Well, they're based in Oklahoma City.
Yeah. Oh, so well, I'll set up a meeting for next downtime.
Okay, sure. This is, you're saying you're gonna hire them on for what do you mention?
Yeah. I want an extra pair of eyes for something. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Sure.
Is the idea we're keeping them on retainer for this upcoming thing as well?
I don't
Next
think
time.
I have the capacity to do that. The time at this point, but I'll. Yeah.
They are also expensive enough that, and especially now that they tipped you off to the Bingham thing basically because that was part of their original hiring on. Now that they are aware of the kind of areas you're dancing in, they may not be interested, or they may be very expensive to get them on and to take that risk, because they're basically going up against government conspiracy at this level.
Just as an aside, because I don't think we ever actually covered it, Aries' credit rating went up pretty early from a 40 to a 50, which makes him actually wealthy now.
Money.
So out of character, should an opportunity arise that there needs to be a pooling of funds or an additional set, then I think that is a reasonable thing for Aries to also be interested in as their resident tactician and apparently now spy master.
Fuck yeah. Okay, that's awesome. Well, in that case, you send the message across to you and can set up a future meeting.
Great.
Hopefully they will approach you. I'll just make a note for that. All right, terrific. Minnie, how did you go?
I failed it and then lucked it to a regular success.
Classic. Okay, great. So you are looking into the mafia's presence in New York and their ties to Chaosium. You'll find another
I'm arming myself with information before going to actually see them, which I do intend to do.
Okay. You had a rough thread on where they might meet. You had that image of the cafe, and I think it was, I don't know that you ever actually got the specific location, but working with
I think I think I did. I think I had a library use roll that went through, like, that I was going through.
Well, I think we said Hubert might be able to help you out.
Yeah.
That will definitely secure that. You'll have the location of the cafe that they meet at regularly. Additionally, you'll find a couple of key. So there's been a little flurry of recent events over the last couple of weeks where a warehouse along the Red Hook docks burnt down not long ago, and there's suspicions of gang involvement, but the police are quite pointedly not investigating this. It looks like they've been paid off and are not approaching further. This is not directly tied to Caduceus, but it does appear to be tied to the Mafia. Beyond that, you can't find any evidence of anyone breaking into your apartment again. It looks like no one's been in here, at least for a while. And with just this success, you find no clear ties between Caduceus and the Mafia. Certainly none that are publicly available.
I might have to do some less library-based research, some sneaking and some listening at doors.
100%. Is there something you'd want to try and do in, like, just by yourself on one of the days? Try and head out, because you could head down to the warehouse. You could go to the cafe. There's a couple of places you could do.
I feel like trying to do it on my own. The consequences of Aries finding out that I went to the mob on my own without backup.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like without telling anyone where I was going, I will at least discuss it with people. Because if like that happens and I get like shot and I have not told anyone where I am, there are things worse than getting shot, and Aries finding out that you didn't tell them where you're going before getting shot, that's one of them.
I'm not angry. Dad's just disappointed.
Yeah.
So much worse.
100%. Well, in that case, when everyone reconvenes with the intent to go to Caduceus, you could say, like, hey, let's do a quick trip and go and look into this. Okay, noted.
I'd like to go into Caduceus with as much information as possible on where we stand and who might be allies and who is definitely not, and how all that sits. I'm very good at getting into places quickly and quietly, and I am happy to go on my own, but I just wanted to run it by you all first in case there was any issues.
More than the obvious. We'll catch up with Lieutenant Carter and then we can figure out what we're gonna. So Sam, what level of success did you get on that medicine roll?
Hard.
Okay. So
quite solidly, which is good.
1 point under. Thanks to the bonus die.
All right. So at the current level, there is limited physical effect. There's the immunity to poisons, which you test and run through a number of anything you have on stock or can easily procure. Lieutenant Carter seems to be completely immune to. Has no effect on this system. So something's clearly purging it, pumping it out. Who knows how that works? You are aware that you could accelerate this process slightly. Where the scales are reforming, they are much harder and could produce a point of armor if developed. What you could basically do is over the course of the day, you could almost like a scarification run, like to make a lattice work across Aries' torso, forearms, and legs, which would create a basic thin layer of scars, enough to sort of, like blows might ricochet off them or, be deflected. So this would give you a point of armor just flat consistently. The thing is, this would develop naturally, you believe, but as this begins to invade your form, your appearance risks reducing as people basically see serpentine effects. So doing it this way might be able to, preserve other features and accelerate this in a safe manner. Otherwise, this would slowly happen over a course of quite a long period, or when you take significant chunks of damage and has to re-heal into the new shape. With a hard, Dr. Sam, on a closer inspection, Aries has teeth. There is something coming in behind two of them. If you want to do a little impromptu dentistry, you reckon you could rip those puppies out?
It's good to know that I could speed all this up.
Get him with
But-
the pliers.
I don't think it's the right thing to do.
I mean,
Based on how Caduceus reacted to the town.
Yeah.
The last thing we want to do is walk into that building and then it turns out one of us has snake fangs and snake scales.
when you're saying pull them out, are you talking about the fangs, or are you talking about my teeth?
Remove the you would be able to remove the fangs are coming in behind the incisors. You'd pop the incisors out. The fangs would then grow reasonably swiftly to fill that space. So you'd still have normal teeth for chomping, and you'd also have a couple of stabbers. You'd probably want to talk with your mouth closed.
I might then suggest.
I'm
Are
suggesting
they?
we keep this a little bit more incognito.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, based on the way that Aries tends to dress, I'm not too concerned about because the implication, Dave, forgive me if I'm misinterpreting this, but if we were to do the lattice work, that is a controlled method that would mean that my appearance was not impacted in the same way as if we let this happen naturally. Is that correct?
It means that you will still probably get to the appearance. If you still take hits, you will eventually get there.
Yeah.
As they begin to develop, but you can get to the armor early. Basically, like you can lattice it on and then have that applied before you suffer the penalties of your appearance being reduced, which will come in time if you ever get hit to the face or somewhere obvious.
In that case, I think that might be worth doing, just because it's going to happen. It's potentially going to happen one way or the other. If we do this cleverly, I already have some scaly tattoos. I'm sure we can make it look potentially a little bit more decorative. If anyone asks, I just figured that the easiest way to make yourself intimidating to someone that you're planning on going up against is going, hey, look, I've covered myself in bits of you.
You fucked.
So yeah, I'm happy to go ahead with the armor part of it, especially before it starts to impact my appearance. Like that seems like a good trade-off.
Okay.
If the implication here is that this is a controlled method of essentially like we're getting what we want without negatives right now.
It is a controlled acceleration, but it is an acceleration.
Oh, look, I'll do what you want. You're the one in control here. I'm
Yes,
just worried
Jim.
about
You look concerned.
being a bit too conspicuous. That's all.
I've just had a thought, which
Hurt.
I know I'm not involved in this thing, but I just want to. But it occurs to me, and since it might be a player secret for a while, I'll bring it up. The bodyguard, Meadham's bodyguard, quite large, almost unnaturally so, and now we're looking at ways that basically you can mess with people and sort of apply using, Dr. Sam's scientific knowledge, a serpent people power to humans. I wonder if could
We're not the first to do it.
out a similar thing. Anyway,
Very
As
good.
we were.
That's a good point.
Thanks, mate. If you want.
Look, YOLO, hit me up. Let's do the lattice. I would say
Fucking
that
do
what
it.
I'm hoping for specifically in terms of like to make this obviously lattice work of like protection. I want it to be like under sort of sleeves, and like able to be hidden under like so I'm not going like full, but
It's the
like if
same rules
someone
as-
tries to take off my fucking arm, like from
It's the same rules as
it's gonna
tattoos
happen.
in an office. As long as you can color it
Essentially,
with a long
yeah.
sleeve shirt, you're
As
fine.
long as I can cover it, and I would like to, if necessary, I will like spend the money to get a tattoo artist in to work over what is done. That will
And
might
that's not
take some
bad.
time, but I'm going to start that process to get it looking like it is a decorative piece.
I mean, the thing is, if the scale thing is happening with any minor injury, a tattoo is kind of an injury.
Oh, it absolutely
That's
is.
the tattoo,
Absolutely.
isn't
Yeah,
it?
so you may as
So,
well
like-
just get the tattoo.
No, but then you get the
What-
tattoo, and the tattoo gets covered by scales.
The scales are being. I think that's cool. Like they're being stylistically, whatever. But yes,
Very good.
they would slowly be sort of swallowed over it. Now, so what Sam's doing is basically taking reasonably deep cuts, enough that the scales coming out of it are not just minor and superficial. You're effectively like running a scalpel in. So you're turning into sort of like such pleasures.
The vibe I'm getting is what we're doing is quite deep, but what I want to make it look like with the decorative is that it's decorative, like that it is like I've
100%.
gone and gotten tattoos, and it's just a very good from it. Like if you were to catch a glimpse of it, it would look like a very detailed tattoo. That like because the shading of the scales and stuff like that, it would only be on like very like closer inspection if you got up quite close to Aries, which if you do that, you're not living, so it doesn't matter. That would be when you'd be like, that's obviously actual scales and not like something decorative.
So this is something you'll do after the fact.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. 100%.
So yeah, it'll be a like I'm gonna go and get who did that for me to like. So
yeah, fuck yeah.
I'm going to go over the existing scales and scar tissue. So I'm assuming that just means like no, mechanically I got the scales. It doesn't fucking matter, but for decorative reasons and for disguise purposes,
100%.
I am going to go to a professional and be like, please make this look
You'll
pretty.
need to find someone you can trust because you're revealing the bits and pieces, and it can be disguised, so maybe like mundane people might be thrown by. Anyone looking for scales will see scales because it's disguising as scales, but it'll just look cool, and that's reason alone to do it.
And I'll be still aiming to hide things like underneath shirts.
You got the turtleneck. Been established in day one. It's all right.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely. I think I would. Would I go? No, I think we'd still try and stop like under a shirt collar line, just because then anything rolls if I need to like change out a turtleneck, like that kind of thing. It's like it might peek up, but it's mostly hidden. But yes,
Okay.
Sam, I am going to grab something to stick between my teeth and say, "Go to it."
And this is going to take a while. This is basically me a couple of days, and it's going to be very painful on the other side of it. Sam, I am going to get you to make
Human and I walk in like halfway through, like, hey, what are you guys? Oh my god!
Well, I was going to say, I do like the idea. I very much like the idea if we want to pick up that scene of Minnie walking in on this and being like, I'm going to go to the cool.
Yeah,
And
pretty
then,
much.
because as I said, I don't desperately want to hide this from everyone long term, but definitely like that is a very funny thing for me. I'm like, yes, walk in on Aries being like, turn me into a snake, motherfucker.
Sam, I am going to get you to make a medicine roll just for
Another medicine?
applying this. Yeah, that was the knowledge and everything. This is going to actually setting it to
What
parts.
the actual
So-
heck?
Oh,
It's going to go through regardless. The risk here is not clean lines, basically, and actually, like large enough things that's going to send like patches of pieces. You could push this as well.
What do you
just
need
need
to
a success.
succeed?
You just need a success.
burn the luck.
I mean, this is really Aries' choice. I've got the luck to spend. Brings me down
Have
15.
the luck to spend. I would like this to look cool just because I am a vain motherfucker as a player, but also I don't want to be like, spend your luck on my character.
You can push
I
it
will spend my
72%. You're fairly safe.
I'm not pushing that. That's a bad time. I'm going to spend my luck because I know Art likes saving all of their luck and getting it to like max before spending any. So I just want them to start spending it on keeping Dr. Sam alive. That's the deal.
I mean, that is absolutely what I will be doing regardless. It's like, Sam's in trouble? Yes, I will
Good.
kill everything around them.
Good.
Okay. With that,
You
Sam.
may have 20
Oh my
something
God.
points of luck.
Okay.
22.
So this takes you basically the full 2 days of steadily working from the sort of collarbone down across both hands up to about, midway up to the forearms towards the wrist, and then legs down towards
I think
ankles.
I was going to say, like, I am happy for it to be essentially body armor where it stops kind of like, like sort of down,
Bicep
like
or something?
at
Forearm?
like bicep and so
hell
like,
we'll use Alex as
so
a guide.
that,
Just like that.
yeah, so it is, so I can still like roll up sleeves if I need to, or like roll up
Okay.
pant legs. So if someone goes at my extremities, like if they try and shoot my gun out of my hand, like, yeah, that's gonna fucking suck. But
Body
in
shots.
terms of like organs, bit more protected.
Okay,
And
100%.
most people go for center mass anyway, hopefully.
With that in mind, then you basically work up and down your friend with a scalpel, carving deep grooves and then blotting the blood away. They do heal quickly, but not so fast that by the time others are returning, like you are in quite a lot of pain, Carter. Whenever, you're
Assuming
moving
we've used
stiffly
some
and...
level of anesthetic for this a little bit, but like
100%.
I would say Aries would refuse to do general. It would be local only, and so it would still absolutely not be very fun.
And you're basically carving grooves all across.
Because the other thing is, it makes sense for Aries to be awake for this, regardless of bonus die or no, just because as Sam's doing it, Aries is actually going to be moving to make sure that the lines that are being cut move across the sort of like ways that Aries would move. So it would be like, it's quite an active thing that it's like, all right, you're cutting, but I want to make sure that this scar is going to let me move in the way I need to move to do what I need to do.
I am also going to have, as we go out of this, you just take a d6 of damage.
Also, just to add a little darkness to it, do you maybe try to get an anesthetic and you're immune to poison so it doesn't work?
That's a good question.
Would absolutely be going in that direction.
Well, that is a.
It is
that
not
is a
currently.
Question.
Currently, you can still benefit from them. It seems to be poisons exclusive, but as your biology changes, snakes can still take like anesthetics and things. They also, I think, can take poison. Can be poison, but whatever. Sam, you would probably you go to like you get your human bag and your veterinarian bag, and you're like, I need to carry both of these from now on.
Just to be safe.
Just to be safe.
Okay. That is fine. I think maybe just again, not necessarily for just because I want to yes and Jim's idea, which is yes, anesthetic still works, but at least in this case, in order to like get the numbing required, it takes more than it should to be like, or I have a certain amount to dull it, I can still feel it. Like it's still something that Aries is like, yep, I'm gonna need to hold something in my mouth so I don't crack my teeth.
Love it.
Actually, no, I would need to feel it a little because, again, I need to make sure it's not pulling. So the anesthetic is partial, but I can absolutely still feel it. It is numbed, but it is absolutely still a lot of pain.
Okay.
To do and a lot of physiology. But Aries is a soldier. It's not the first time.
Fucking sick.
This is not the first lattice work of scarring that they've had across their body.
But it is the prettiest.
I mean, the tiny silver scar leaves were kind of fun, but I think there is a little bit of like Aries would absolutely note that as Sam is doing this, it is hiding some of the old scarring, and there would be a slight kind of conflicted expression when that's happening, along with just one of like, ow, right? Cool, let's go. Yeah.
Okay. So the other two will return after going about their days. If the two of you intend to keep this secret, you can. You can time this accordingly. Otherwise, I pass back to you. Basically, your meeting with Cataseus scheduled is this afternoon. It's midday and you're supposed to get there in a few hours. You have enough time to get a taxi over. If you do anything else, you'll be basically ditching that, and you can always come back later. You can just say, hey, we got caught in traffic or whatever, but it is up to you. What would you like to do?
I think it is funny if we interrupt.
Yeah.
Definitely Minnie. I'm not sure if Hubert has returned from schmoozing.
Reveals are also fun, and I think that Hubert will just go with anything. Do you want Minnie to interrupt so you can all theorize about it? Because Hubert can just be blithering that way. And you can
I like that just for funsies, Minnie can walk in and Hubert
Hey, I'm going to go see them.
Just like Aries is mostly covered in bandages at this point, and Sam is just going to town on whatever final area needs doing.
It's pretty fucked up without context, and honestly, even with it, it's not real great.
Yeah.
Not sure if context makes it better or worse.
I feel good about it.
Oh, Miss Sinclair.
I'm gonna go see the mob.
Right.
Just like stiffly just turns around and leaves the room.
Oh, that was easy. She took that quite well, I think.
Where?
Here down the hallway. What the fuck?
I will yell where at your retreating back, just in case we need to extract you.
Cafe with the red door.
And good. Enjoy.
You too.
You're meeting with Cataseus as soon as the intent that Minnie will not be going to it.
No, Minnie will still go to it. This is just like because I didn't get very much from the library scroll, I would just like to do a quick reconnaissance.
Okay.
And do a bit of a sneaky stealthy.
So is this
See what I
before?
can
Is this
figure out
you're
that
gonna
way.
try and get in there before the meeting, or
Yes.
you go?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. You're gonna be cutting it fine. In fact, there is a very real chance that you risk running late to it. As long as that's all good.
Because because the Minnie's intention, because if we have a couple of days and if we're doing the Cataseus meeting at the end of the couple of days.
This is kind of spread across, the length of it.
If it's over a couple of days and if we're not meeting Cataseus till the end, then definitely one of the days before would be go forth and check out the mob.
Sure. Okay.
Or was the library roll was that
the
over
library
a
roll
couple of
was
days?
the spread of it, but that's reasonable. Especially if this is you just taking it careful and just trying to get eyes on it and seeing who comes or goes, I think that's fine.
Just making sure I know where it is and what time what times it might be busy, and so that after the meeting, if there's still time, we can look into it a bit.
Fantastic. No, 100%. In that case, can you give me a stealth roll with a bonus dice? And this is just going to be keeping yourself out of the line of sight. Should be easy enough, especially if you're not lingering around there for several days. Nice. And confirmed. Okay. So you'd, I guess, get a cab out to, this will be the day before, maybe the morning of, before you all plan to meet straight there. You get a cab out towards this small cafe, the red door, and you park across the street to watch the comings and goings. This is not a well used cafe. It seems to be in a sort of like a suburb area, and even the locals kind of avoid it, probably heading straight towards somewhere else. You will see, while waiting, a number of characters come and go, and you will recognize most of these from your research. You're beginning to put together something of a dossier on the Mafia, and honestly, even outside of any Cataseus ties, you're probably like one of the, you could also just be like, go to the police and be like, hey, I think I've cracked, who's on whose take. You'll notice a number of cops that are possibly involved, as well as some of the key figures. So Joseph Banana, who is the Joey Bananas from your dream quite some time ago, will be seen
If I
coming
ever meet
in.
this guy, I'm going to 100% call him Joey Bananas. I'm not going to be able to help myself.
He will lose his shit. So you will see him. He is fairly young and sort of like quite slender, although with sort of like a thick neck that goes straight into his shoulders. And he is always flanked by between 3 and 4 armed guards that travel with him. This dude is blatantly Mafia affiliated.
Oh, yeah.
And as the leader of it, is always traveling with people to reinforce him. Yeah, he also travels regularly with an advisor who is a very tall, official-looking man, sort of like a briefcase to his side, and who would do, be the lawyer associated with, and possibly also some of their front-facing business ties. This is Philippe Rapper. And as you see this man, you recognize him from some of your research. He does have some ties to Cataseus. You don't know how deeply the Mafia goes into it, though, but there has been some money that has gone between the two in the past through this man, not directly through Banana. The other one you notice of note is the short man, Martino Bresciani, because this is the fellow whose body is buried, or it is now burned to a crisp, but was hidden on Dr. Sam's farm. And as this man travels with them, or comes to meet them at the cafe at one point, you'll see him get out of the car, cast an eye all around the area, and with your hard success, he looks straight past you. But as he does, you can feel sort of like a shiver go down your spine, and you slink a little bit further back into the shadows. Hold your newspaper up higher, and he steps past you. Can you please make a psychology roll for me? Actually,
I can give it a red hot go. What was his name again?
Martino Bresciani.
Bresciani. Yes, I did have him written down. Good. Psychology. Hey. No.
Okay. He seems to be on the lookout. He steps inside, will meet with the others, and then not too long after depart. Just in the short period you're here, it becomes pretty apparent that they run a lot of their meetings from here. This is not a publicly, Mafia-affiliated location. This is not listed. This is probably somewhere they actually fall back to. They wouldn't have public meetings with like, you know, local politicians or police here. This is just for family and people directly associated with it. So you do have a bit of the upper hand here, and no real locals would come or go. I get the sense that on any given day, there'll be some presence here. And if you are lucky, there might be some of the actual leadership figures here as well.
Yeah. In my notes, also, Bresciani, skin on.
Yes. You'll notice he has no wedding ring.
Interesting. Well, no, he wouldn't, would he? Do I see Casale again, the guy who broke into my house?
No.
Old mate with the one ear.
Not present at the moment.
Interesting. He better not be in my fucking house. Good to know. Good to know. Good to know.
Ranking wise, he's fairly low down the chain. He would probably be in some meetings, but he wouldn't be involved.
Yeah.
He would get told something to do, and he would go and do it. Okay.
Got it.
All right.
No,
Seems
it's
like
taken.
another approach would have been to just, you know, dream about him, right?
Well, that goes well until the exact point that it doesn't, and I get a giant snake s'more coming out of the dream sky to dream eat me.
It's true. It's true.
Which
I mean,
always
there's
for
a,
sure
there's a
sucks.
possible chance that, depending on who that was, which I think it might have actually been, well, either it was Yig, and if it is, then I can be like, hey fam, just do you mind not doing that to my friend? Just maybe? Don't think that would work, but you know.
You greatly overestimate.
Even in the tank?
Do we?
I don't think I overestimate. I'm just like, well, fucking try. I did it before. Maybe
you
I can
dare
do it
to
again.
even
Maybe.
perceive Yig?
Do we know if the snakes are dream adjacent, dream involved?
Yig loves
Because-
Yig loves a snooze.
Okay,
Oh yeah.
snakes do love a snooze, but I did get the vibe. This is Hubert talking here, not me. I know because I am a smart investigator, but for my character's benefit, the vibe was a little like something had gone. I got the feeling something was errant or wrong inside the North Borneo region that we were in. It felt like it was sort of like just like that, like something had gone awry.
Oh, as in like
Yeah,
you're
for
talking
sure.
about the fact that we wandered into the dreamlands and
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
that was-
this
that
is
was-
this is weird.
Yeah, that was
basically,
completely
I got.
cooked.
Did they want that? Were they in control of that situation? Yeah, I'm looking too far into this.
In control of it? No, it did not. They did not say that they thought that was super duper. They had someone on the ground that was looking into it as well. It was the bloke that was masquerading as Shapiro
Yeah.
towards the
Yeah.
end of it. But you got the impression that they had been hunting around. They might have caused it, but no, it did not look like a great boon that there were monsters walking around and little rat guys and things.
Yeah,
That
but
was-
I guess critically, Minnie's ability to dream isn't necessarily just playing into the hands of the serpents. Like it is a weapon against them that can be used to a certain extent, which is why maybe it didn't come up so much when we were in the cave.
I mean, I think Minnie's pretty aware of it, that this is it's quite a risky thing. This does seem to be one of the domains of Yiggs. He definitely has a presence in here. You've been able to use it to get information, but Minnie's been haunted by nightmares for quite some time as a result of it. And
It's-
the point, you've also rolled very well in your forays. The one where you went into the Reverend's mind, that was one step above a trap. Like,
Yeah.
that was quite
I only
sinister.
just got out of there.
Mm-hmm.
And I got out of there by doing something real fucked. So
Yeah.
like I climbed into a man's belly button. I don't really
Good
Just
times.
hopped in his tum.
just hop. I just hopped into the tum.
Just a
Straight
little,
in.
just a little
Straight in.
wormhole into nowhere.
That's not what Tums are for.
And big steppy.
It is the way to his heart.
And big dream steppy.
That's true.
Big dream steppy.
Through the stomach and behind that. What?
And you also in the past have had you've
But
spelt
yeah.
the presence of the mummified serpent that you rescued from your first scenario in Bolivia, attempting to peer into your mind and whisper horrible nonsense as well. So that is definitely, you are not the only one playing in that field. Okay. So having done a
work
little
out who that is.
reconnaissance,
Reco.
the four of you gather back out at the main steps of the Caduceus headquarters. Every time you return here, it seems the situation has changed, and this time the building has taken a slightly sinister appearance. It's sort of larger and more looming than it felt before. It's got a lot of glass windows, but they're all mirrored, so you can't see inside, and there's very much that effect of not knowing what's truly happening. At the heart of it, you look all the way up the height of it and realize you've only ever been to a fraction of these floors. Sure, there's the actual aid officers, but you are aware of the basement down the bottom where experiments and, Serpent people were being held. You're aware of the higher floors, which you do have access to, where Caduceus researches the mythos actions throughout the world and sends investigators, heroes such as yourselves, to go and deal with them. But then you also know that Joshua Meadham's always come from another level. His office must be around there somewhere, and who knows what it contains. And every layer of this onion that's peeled back reveals another more rotten piece further within, yours to pry open. As you go in through the main revolving doors, you will quickly be escorted up to floor 7, which is where you met with Shapiro some time ago, and now Gonzalez. You're not being taken down to the lower levels, and as you are greeted by the secretary coming up to the floor, she will say, Dr. Gonzalez will be with you in just a moment. Feel free to seat yourself here, and you can wait for him in one of the boardrooms. Jim?
Did we get escorted up the elevator by the bodyguard like we did last time?
No. At the lowest level, there will be guards at the elevators, and then you can head up. No, there's been no sign of the big boy.
Okay, no worries. Thanks.
Canning. Okay. You have a short period where you are waiting. There is the secretary available, but Dr. Gonzalez will be here presently.
Hey.
I make the most of the sort of credit rating roll I threw around earlier. I have coffees brought to us. I think I can spring that much.
Oh, yeah, you did get that roll. You know what? With that, actually, as you come through, Secretary, a bit of extra information. The secretary will say to you, Hubert, because you possibly came in, like, signed some stuff a little while ago or just expressed general interest. She says, apologies again, Mr. Meadham has not returned yet. He's still at home, but we expect he will be back in a few days. I understand you're headed overseas for Mr. Gonzalez's next assignment, but once you return, I'm sure he'd be very interested in sitting down and meeting with you once again.
Sounds fantastic. And no worries. I know wherever he is doing good work, so I'm pleased to hear he's well occupied.
Or recovering in preparation for it.
Yes, that's good. Yeah, I understand that.
Okay. Is there anything anyone would like to do in the short intervening period? Start chucking people out windows? Draw a gun and train it on the door?
Just some gentle defenestration to start the day.
Yeah.
I think. Sorry, Jim?
After you.
Oh, I was just going to say that I think it's reasonable that beforehand, the essential, the guidance is like we can talk in the way we might have talked about the things that, like the tasks that we need to do, but under no circumstances are we to discuss anything that we discussed at brunch. That is
anything that already happened.
Okay.
Yeah. Aries ain't dumb and is like, this place is bugged to shit. Like, don't.
Oh, yeah.
Just to make that explicit that we would have discussed, Aries would have said that beforehand.
Yes, no worries.
Yes.
Good.
Jim is smiling like he's wondering if Hubert will remember that.
Jim's already figuring out a way he can twist that and be like, technically, this is how I would have interpreted that.
No, we're all good.
Okay.
He thought you meant actual bugs, so if you can't see any flies in the room, then it's probably safe.
Aries will remember this.
Okay. After a short period then, Dr. Gonzalez comes in. He's got a small pile of folders and a large folded over map. He shakes hands with each of you and says, I was very impressed with how things were handled there. I'm happy to report that the further operation is underway and people are getting the treatment that they need. I actually just got a letter on my desk earlier saying that things are progressing well, and they're hopeful that in the short period we'll be able to return and follow things up from there.
Inwardly, but outwardly.
Can I
Can I get one of you to make a psychology roll, actually, just as he's talking?
I got a good bit of psychology.
Not me.
Hard success.
Okay. He appears to believe the information that he is sharing.
Oh, really?
You don't get the impression that he is lying or trying to
Wow.
draw attention. He probably genuinely did receive a letter to this effect.
That's interesting.
There you go.
That is interesting.
Okay. He said he has himself towards the other side and sits down and says, I would like a full report, though, just enough to fill out the files and to talk about any serpent person activity you encounter there. We understand that there was a rogue reverend who had sworn himself to Yig and was using some strange magics, but the actual people in the town seemed innocent and unaffected, at least, beyond the reverend's touch.
We did not find any evidence of serpent people activity in an active sense.
No,
Outside of
the townspeople all thought they were just going to a regular Christian service. It was the Reverend who was himself misguided, but in turn misguiding others.
And no actual serpent persons masquerading?
No.
Mm-mm.
No notable artifacts or magical effects?
Just one lone actor, it seems.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, artifacts, nothing that survived us smashing into them very hard, but no.
Well, it's good to hear, and I'm grateful that you handled things safely. It's a shame that, a few people died, as you reported, in the caves, but these things happen, and when people allow the mythos to influence them, attempt to draw deeper secrets from it, madness can follow. But we can see why they do it, and it's good that you were there to try and set them back to rights.
Well, even the Reverend wasn't really doing it from a point of trying to draw anything out of the mythos. He too was deceived ultimately, and really thought that what he was doing was the will of God.
And I mean,
genuinely, there was no ill will from anybody.
And on some level, I mean, he may have been right. From what I hear, the gifts he was granted, what he was able to do, were quite incredible. I mean, Dr. Sam, I'm sure you can emphasize with the desire to heal those that are beyond the ability and modern medicine. But, these things do come at a cost. Unless there's anything further you'd like to add, I think we can close that off and begin preparations for your next assignment.
Yes, quite somebody said overseas.
Yes. He gets a map and unfurls it and then marks a point in Iceland. He says, this is the Snæfellsnes Peninsula that you see here.
What? Sorry, excuse me?
Snæfellsnes. Snæfellsnes.
One more time?
Snæfellsnes.
Just give us
Snæfellsnes. Snæfellsnes. Yeah, there we go.
This is
Nailed
all
it.
in character.
Yeah, he's absolutely fucking.
And you're just like, oh, we got him here.
The Snæfellsnes Peninsula here along Iceland, and recently it has been the subject of awakening volcanic activity. A number of earthquakes have damaged the roads nearby, and there have been reports of missing persons. Now, we have long believed that there may be some ancient facility stored there, and Miss St. Clair, your uncovering of a Iceland location while you were in North Borneo helped to reinforce that. We've been monitoring the area, and we believe that something is happening. There is an awakening, something beginning to accelerate. This volcano here, which he pronounces flawlessly as Snæfellsjökull, according to the pronunciation guide that I've got right here, it has long been covered by...
Wait, you're doing this with a pronunciation guide?
For that one, not for the other one. has long been covered by a glacial plate, but largely considered dormant, but some activity appears to have kicked it back up. Now, we have set up a base camp nearby where it's kind of rude to call them mundane aid workers, but people unaware of Cataseus' further, actions are standing by to receive families that need to be relocated out of the area to assist them, and then to help them to get boats and travel further afield. From there, we can send the 4 of you in to conduct deeper research. Now, there's other elements to this, and he produces a small wooden carving of like a little troll guy, and he puts it down and he twists it. He goes, there have long been myths in the area of old figures, things in the woods that commonly referred to as trolls, and we believe this may be tied to the race of the Vormis, which are an enslaved species of monstrous workers that the Serpent people long ago scientifically and magically modified in order to carry out tasks that they were unsuited for or unwilling to carry out. If this facility is related to that, this may be where they were produced or where they were stored, and if some have escaped, they may be traveling around the area. Nothing you can't handle. Understand that these creatures are relatively small and, for the most part, intentionally kept willing to, easily overpowered and demanded to take actions. This was the intent of the Serpent persons. There should be little risk.
Good to hear.
Be that as it may, every piece of fieldwork we've done for Caduceus thus far has involved a level of risk above and beyond what we initially anticipated. So,
yes, I think we've been told that every single time. Oh, there's minimal risk to you, and then turns out there is in fact.
So I entirely understand that you are being completely truthful with us and do believe that there is minimal risk, but on the off chance that there might be something else here, do you know of anything else we might need to be aware of?
Well, I agree it's best to be prepared. If this is one of the facilities that they've set up, then there may be a large subterranean network. It stands to reason that it was built around the volcano, so that long ago the Serpent persons could avoid the cold and secret themselves away. There may still be some portions of it left. That would be the focus of your study. Additionally, the greatest threat to this would be the presence of the Inner Knight. If we've gotten word of this, they likely will have as well, and they may have agents on the ground. You'll recall they can masquerade themselves as human, and they are ruthless. As worshippers of Sathogwa, they will have no qualms with, killing people to get their way, and they are a brutal unit of enemies.
I'm sorry. You used a different name for the Inner Knight. I'm not sure that was I'm not sure you used that before. Sorry, just a new word.
Worshippers of Sathogwa?
Yes, I'm not sure that
What
was
is that? Is that
What's worth, it was included in the packet you got really early.
Oh, okay, cool.
You have
okay.
heard that name before.
I was going to assume that we just weren't listening.
Cool, because
earlier.
that is definitely the first time outside of that's the first time I've heard.
If you go into
anything.
the handouts we've shared, it's in the
very
New
good,
York
very good.
one. The mythos orientation mentions the Inner Knight and
very good.
worshipping
Alright.
Sathogwa, an evil
In short,
Me, I will probably still say, my mistake.
We
Obviously didn't read it.
we cover it by making it look like that we weren't actually just missing something, that we were teasing him on his pronunciation. Because it actually is Sathogwa. Just like the Icelandic places pronunciation guide.
in short, let's just assume that Dave isn't clever enough to have NPCs make mistakes that he wants us to pick up on.
No, fuck no.
Also, let us assume that Aries isn't stupid enough to have called that out if that wasn't a problem. But also,
of course.
Jade is quick enough to go back and frantically re-edit the original package.
No one
He
opened
would.
the handout for just like a couple minutes.
it's all good as long as it is implied that that is not a weird thing. I rest my case and no longer care.
It's a weird thing. It's a giant toad guy that's
I just made
commanding the
it
enemies.
weird that he would know the name. That's fine.
I'm with you.
Um,
Listen, this is a ongoing operation. We can fly you out there in a relatively short period, but people are going to be being extracted out of there for over the next week or so. We don't believe there to be an immediate threat, and if you have pressing matters to attend to or further research, we could delay your transport. We have a plane ready and standing by. It can be loaded and launched at a moment's notice. So if you wish, we can have you return to your homes, gather your things, and fly out tomorrow morning. Otherwise, we can reschedule this to later in the week. As always, it's best to get there as soon as possible before the Inner Knight gets a chance to get on the ground. But understand, you are now trusted agents. You've done several operations with us. I leave this in your care. You're more than capable. And if you think that staying here and preparing, doing a bit more research is important, then we'll support that.
I wouldn't mind just one day to get some research on the locale completed.
you need
Just
a
some of
full-
my own research. Just one day.
Do you need a full day, Miss Sinclair, or would an evening suffice?
I think an evening shall suffice.
Dr. Gonzalez, just so I'm clear, our role in this, there is a dormant volcano that is suddenly now active, and so people need to be evacuated from the area. This dormant volcano may not in fact be dormant anymore, was a large subterranean compound that was being used by the Serpent people at some point for the production, potentially, of these troll-like creatures.
That is correct.
And our mission is to get into that compound and what exactly? Take it down, find information, return with, as you so delightfully said earlier, artifacts. What exactly is there?
Your parameters have widened, Lieutenant. I will present you with the opportunities of where we believe there might be activity, but understand you, me, and the Cataseus Foundation are aligned. We seek to save the world and stop those that act against it. When you're on the field, I'm sure you'll find that the Inner Knight are there, and what they find interest in, so do we. So let's get there first and make sure they don't get it. Any artifacts that can be returned here, we can study further and glean more insight into the Serpent person's activities, their desires, and what they might be planning next. But beyond this, they seek to awaken a volcano, or they seek to discover the facility underneath it. We don't want them to. We'll put you on the ground, and I have the utmost faith that you will prevent that activity. You are empowered to do so. We will outfit you with the tools that you require. If there's more information that you need, you only have to request it. We'll do what we can.
I am curious, and just a quick timeout because I believe my character was there for the episode, but this was the one that I skipped.
Yeah.
Is Dr. Gonzalez aware that we know about, or would potentially know about, the mummy disappearing?
Oh, for
Is
sure,
that
yeah.
something-
Yeah, he was down
Yeah,
there. When,
great.
he was the one that tried. He was with you when you played the recording. Then he tried to lead you all out. He was not. He did not
And we were
witness
like-
the portal bullshit itself, but he was very much with you.
Yeah,
And then
great.
you guys kind of slipped away and went and did some other stuff.
Lovely.
So yes, he is.
Great. That then tees up for my question, which was how is the recovery of our sleeping serpent going?
Well, they're certainly no longer sleeping. There's been no word since, but that is a high priority, and we are monitoring that. Any activity gets passed through, and we will study it for information. Most likely, and as some of the most capable agents we have, this will fall to the four of you once we can identify their location to go and retrieve what you retrieved previously.
See. And has there been any progress made on locating the crown scepter that they seemed so very interested in?
The scepter, the crown.
I forget which ones we had
The
and which
scepter
we
we
didn't.
have. The crown, no. I understand Mr. Meadham's taken a personal interest in this as well, and has set some of his own agents to the task. I'm not handling that investigation.
Understand.
Any information we find is referred directly to him.
Do you have any idea exactly what the purpose of retrieving that specific entity was? If we are to be tasked to retrieve it again, it would be helpful to have a little bit more information than we did last time. This, of course, can wait until such time as we're asked to, but I figured it worth asking the question.
No, if in just in case you find anything that points you in the direction. This was, I guess, currently is running around as an ancient serpent person. This is one of the far older of their kind. I understand these things are long-lived, but not immortal. They do, breed, produce young, grow old, die, but this mummy would be from some long distant period, and if studied or ideally questioned, might be able to give us insight into what was the distant history of the serpent persons, what they were truly like, and as a spiritual leader or possibly even some sort of political figurehead, she may have some insight into the goals of the different factions that still affect the state of play today. As for the artifacts, they're still being studied, but we believe them to not only be pieces of, religious, I don't want to say paraphernalia, implementation, religious artifacts. They also have some mythos effects, some magical abilities, and it's understood that by their combination, they would grow further in strength. Finding the crown is critical, and as I understand it, keeping it away from the now woken mummy is yet another in our long list of convoluted and overlapping priorities.
Oh, I see. Well,
unfortunately, the business of saving the world is rarely clean.
A word of tactical advice, then, if I may, Dr. Gonzalez. Do make sure that all of these tangled weaves are at least somewhat kept with their ends tidy. It's very hard to find the ends weave if you don't keep a good handle on them. And I would hate to see what would happen if all of these got properly tangled and we couldn't pull them apart again. We will do our best to assist, of course.
And that's appreciated. It's a complex operation, and that is principally my role. I find that with every day that passes, I spend more of it on accounting and administration than practical fieldwork, but it's just as important. You've felt the effects of how we silo information in the past, and it's not always ideal, but understand, if everything were shared, if everything were understood, then the nature would only become more chaotic. At some level, and as military folk, some of you will see this, things need to be delegated, and not all information is critical. But with that in mind, I will share anything that you ask that you believe may be relevant. I'll try and give to you, and whatever you need to fulfill your responsibilities. As you rise in our organization, we hope that we know that we can trust you, and we hope that we can give you the tools you need to excel.
We certainly intend to excel. We are an excellent bunch.
Well, unless you have any further questions, we can prepare the plane to leave not tomorrow but the following day. That'll support Miss St. Clair's research period and time enough for Dr. Sam you to reform and prepare your flying machine for departure. You might find that it is quite useful as it's a reasonably large area. Unless there's anything further, Mr. Smith, I'd like a quiet word before you leave.
Very happy to speak.
Okay. All right. If you'll just step outside with me. And he walks to the door.
I do just that.
Okay.
I would like to listen, please.
Okay. Make a... so they're glass windows. It's going to be apparent that you're going for it. Make a...
Would I... Glass windows or like glass walls?
Like glass, like those offers. Those like
Okay.
pod things. But you can just sit in a chair and just listen. Like it's just going to be hard.
Yeah. I will give that a try.
He's
I'm
just
happy.
stepping outside the door. Okay. Make a hard listen roll, please.
You're good. You set the stakes and I will give you an extreme.
Holy shit. All right, fantastic. It always goes. Oh, there it goes. All right. Yeah, you can hear the whole conversation without issue, and even if the other two talk lightly, you'll be able to track it. So, stepping just outside, Mr. Smith, Dr. Gonzalez says, I understand you're interested in deepening your connections with the organization.
That's right. Yes, I think that inevitably it's going to become more and more important to take a more active role in things.
I'm grateful to hear that. Listen, you've seen a great many curious and sometimes scary things over the period, but you've also seen the tools which the enemy uses against us. I have some reason to believe that there may be tools similar to this being stored in that facility. I would like to ask you, Mr. Smith, to ask you personally with this, to retrieve a canister. We held some period ago a Serpent person who once worked in one of these similar facilities, since ruined, who claims that they have some immense calculation machine capable of running extraordinary mathematical computations and producing incredible results. Now, this person did not understand the means by which it worked, nor was he allowed access to it, but he maintained that there was a room beneath the control center where a number of canisters, as he called it, he saw them coming and going from time to time, fueled this device, or perhaps with the power behind it itself. I'll be very interested on you procuring some of these.
Understood. Yes, I'll make it happen.
Now, you're free to share this with your party, but Mr. Meadham himself is interested in these. And what I would suggest is that if you can procure this and you return it to us here at Chaosium and present it to him personally, I suspect you might find yourself with an invitation to the next event he hosts out at his Connecticut estate.
I've always wanted to visit Connecticut. Well, fantastic. Thank you very much. I will see to it that it happens.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Smith. And unless there's anything further, I'll leave you all to your discussions.
Thank you.
He walks Hubert back into the room, and unless you have any more questions, and you can also, cover some of these in hindsight, that's totally okay, Dr. Gonzalez will depart. Now, session-wise, we're drawing late, so what I will get from everyone is intentions for the next day. Are you immediately about facing and going head-to-head with the Mafia? Are you making final preparations and planning to head across to Iceland? Or are you letting Dr. Gonzalez leave, pretend to stay here working late and moving to explore the facility here? Or any number of other options? What's the direction? Where are our sights set?
I already did my Iceland research in the last downtime. I did quite a lot of it because I thought that was where we were going next. So that's already done. I've got maps, I've got books, I've got notes. Like, I already did that.
Yep.
So I am definitely interested in the mob.
Okay.
Yeah, I think mob.
Mob?
I wouldn't mind a bit of backup, but if there is also some Chaosium snooping that's happening.
I think whatever
So happy
discussion
to
we have,
do that.
this happens outside of Chaosium's offices.
Oh yeah.
I understand. This
I
is more
will-
me just getting a meta
Yeah.
direction for the next session.
But if some of us wanted to stay, then it could be something that we spoke about prior, or
Yeah. It's all split up.
I have no firm attachment to anything that I do for the next day, so I am happy to be back up on someone else's adventure if someone
Okay.
would like one. That is fine by me.
If three of us are bound for the mob, Dr. Sam, let's squad up and hit the mob.
I don't see why not.
Okay.
If it's a mob we got, then a mob will do.
Yeah.
So as the group ends their expedition in Oklahoma, prepares to depart for Iceland, they look right down at the nest of sleeping vipers so far undisturbed and rear back their leg, preparing to kick it. Next session, we will begin with the four of you snooping around the mob and undoubtedly making more enemies than friends.
They were asking for it.
They were asking for it. They looked at us.
oh, you little face. No, it tracks. It absolutely tracks.
100%. All right, terrific. All right. Well, thank you all for playing, and thank you everyone who tuned in to watch. We will be back next week to continue our adventures as we do a little mob kicking, and then depart for lovely Iceland, where charming trolls roam the countryside, and there's an ominous humming facility deep beneath a volcano. It should be grand. We'll see you in a week.
Thank you.